board workshop of the Board of Trustees of East Central ISD will be held November 6, 2025, beginning at 5 p.m. at the Student Services Building, 7395 FM, 1628 San Antonio, Texas, 78263. Madam Secretary, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ginger Friesenhan. David Santos.
Yes, ma'am, here.
Randall Gerhardt.
Here.
James Mulkey. Del Brazil is here. Amelia Carrasco.
I'm here.
Wendy Princess.
Here.
Yes, ma'am, we have four.
Thank you. Next item is prayer and pledge.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Mr. McKay.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord. We just thank you for the cooler weather that you're bringing us, Lord. We just continue to ask that you provide a hedge of protection around our students and our staff and the greater community, Lord. We praise you for the many ways that you continue to bless us in this community. And it is your name we pray. Amen. Let's go ahead and stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Number 4, we don't have. Next item is superintendent reports, 5.1 district-wide intruder detection audit report findings.
Yeah, trustees, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McKay to provide the board with a brief of our most recent intruder detection audit. And then we've got Ms. Gomez and Mr. Christian here as well to provide a little bit more detail. Mr. McKay?
Yes, sir. As you know, several years ago, the TDA, Texas School Safety Center, started conducting random intruder detection audits. They're unannounced. They go to every campus and inspect every doors. Most recently, the high school came through that inspection. The good thing is the auditor was basically contacted outside before he can get any entry into the school. That's the first measure. Second measure, he's required to go through all the visitor management protocols. So he just had to provide his ID, get raptured in, and make sure that he met all the credentials. We also passed all the areas that show that we meet the weekly exterior door safety suite checks and that we have plans in place if a door is not functioning properly. You have to demonstrate that through work orders and all those things. And the last thing they do is they go around and they check all 177 doors, gates, fences, everything that's on this campus. Unfortunately, in this last check, we did have 2 doors at the high school. It wasn't because they weren't operationally functional. It was due to human error. I asked Ms. Gomez and Mr. Christian to be here to maybe explain a little bit more about what they discovered in their findings. In addition, we have taken additional corrective actions. They'll talk about what the corrective action steps have been up to this point, and we've also presented this plan to to our school safety committee yesterday for their approval. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Gomez and Mr. Christian just to talk about the steps they've taken to remediate. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Good evening, good evening. Thank you, Mr. McKay, for that introduction. Correct. The auditor did not gain access to Central High School. He was stopped by one of our safety monitors, which is great news. Within that hour and a half, during that hour and a half visit, he was with Mr. Christian as they did the door sweeps. Okay, checking all 177 doors. 2 doors that were within the perimeter were unlocked. 2 of them, backside of the pack, for those of you who've been to the Patterson Center, right? Backside, we have our classrooms. So the door that leads to the back is one of those, it's a double door that you can lock or unlock with your key. There's a little mechanism on the wall. And so during passing period, as you can imagine, he was there an hour and a half, we had a passing period. And during that 7-minute passing period, the teacher unlocked it, and then tardy bell rang, forgot to lock it back up, okay? Directly across, we have our band hall. And so we've got 2 big metal doors that are there, and that's where the kids exit, come and go during the passing period, that 7-minute passing period. One of the students had propped it open for the kids to come and go, bring your instruments, all that fun stuff, and tardy bell rings, they close it, but the door stop that was used essentially was scooted, and so when the door closed, the lock did not engage. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Christian, but that was essentially what happened. And again, it was within our perimeter of our school.
So a couple of things that we've done to try to remediate these problems, keep them from happening in the future. One is to increase our patrol around the campus. We're using our safety monitors, we're using our APs as they're out on passing duty. We're asking for increased attention to the doors, particularly after passing periods. Again, we believe both of these are human errors resulting from the transition that happened between 5th period C lunch time and 6th period. So you've got 3,200 students that are all moving at one time. So we've asked our safety monitors and APs to make sure that they're checking their areas before they leave them. They're out on duty already. Let's make sure those doors are taken care of. Second thing that we're doing is every period of the day we have at least one safety monitor on a golf cart that is out patrolling the campus, sweeping, picking kids up, looking at gates. As is alluded, there's 177 doors and 27 gates that are around the campus. And so we have posted on the safety monitor golf cart a checklist now of the high volume areas where students are coming in and out, so that there's a constant reminder of the areas that need to be checked. So each period of the day, our goal is for safety monitors to make those areas. We're increasing our frequency of internal audits. We do a weekly door sweep that's more mechanically focused. And obviously we're doing well there because none of these were mechanical failures. Mr. Rokas and our maintenance department do a great job of coming in and fixing the doors when we have those issues. So that's a weekly sweep. What we're instituting now are either myself, Ms. Gomez, scheduled times throughout the week to go in and say, I'm going to check this area. We're not announcing them. It's kind of that random audit internally just to heighten some awareness and make sure that we're following our protocols. We instituted some refresher safety and security training. So we do our door sweeps and our general safety training at the beginning of the year when teachers come back. We came back in with an additional layer of training and then addressed some of the specific issues that were revealed to us in this intrusion audit. So we had a slide deck for staff to go through. They went through, viewed the slide deck, and they had a quiz to complete, to answer and complete. Everyone has completed that. That's all staff on campus, paraprofessionals, professionals, administrators, everybody that's on campus. So 217 staff members have completed that. With at least a 90 or greater pass rate. We have reached out to Texas Lock and Door. They are our access control vendor that we utilize for a lot of the stuff that's here on campus. We're looking at some automation. There's a give and a take there. There's a good and a bad, but there is a way that we can use our swipe access doors with automatic timing to lock and unlock them, which would remove that human element. So we're exploring that. If your bell schedule gets adjusted, then you introduce some other difficulties there. So we're not completely sold on that, but we're at least exploring those options to try to mitigate some of the human error. And then unfortunately, where we feel like we've got to go is our last one is personnel documentation. Safety is everyone's responsibility, and we've been very, very clear that these people that are in these buildings, particularly the ones that are outside of the main building, if you're in a satellite building, our math science, our band hall, our PAC, our CTC, our ag, the teachers in those buildings have to be accountable for the security of that building. So it is one more thing that we're asking teachers to do, but it's a very important one more thing. And so both of the teachers that were in those areas have received memos of record in their personnel file to communicate this is an important day. So we're putting a little bit of teeth behind it. So not something that we're excited about, but it's something we feel is necessary just to document that this is an important piece of the safety and security of campus.
And then to add an additional layer to that, so we worked also with our safety team that we have across the district, and we've also going to institute unannounced random intruder detection audits internally. So we're going to be doing that. They won't know when we're coming, but we'll come pretty frequently. It'll be at least once every 2 to 3 weeks. And we'll be also checking doors with them to make sure that we're following through on all the things that we've said and promises that we've made. So in the event that there's any issues regarding that, then administrative counsel will occur beyond that point. So those are the layers. Just to also repeat what I mentioned earlier, we did take this plan yesterday as per the requirement for TBA to the Texas, our school safety committee team. And they did approve, they did adopt this, so now our next layer is to bring it to you guys to share with you as well.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Next item is 5.2 District Vulnerability Assessment Full Report.
So a little bit different, in addition to district-wide and intruder detection audits, the Texas Education Agency has deployed district vulnerability assessments. Every district will be randomly selected once every 4 years for a comprehensive vulnerability assessment, and we won. We were first district out of the cage, which is fantastic. Mr. McKay's going to talk a little bit with more specificity about the comprehensive nature of the assessment, as well as the procedures they followed logistically, and then the findings, if you will, feedback that we received, and what we've already been doing, have done, and will do about the areas of opportunity for continued progress on our comprehensive safety planning
Yes.
and facility improvements. So, Mr. McKay?
Inside of your packets, you will find the hard copy of this report, right? Did we took? No, we did not. It's in your electronic packets. I do apologize. So the electronic packet is in there. I will say that the full comprehensive is about 115. What we did is we gave you the summary pages of it. It just basically takes all of that documentation. It has very comprehensive rubrics through the entire document that you can go through. So if that's something you would like to see more of, I am happy to say that there were many areas that we got a lot of positive remarks from TEA. First and foremost, and probably the most comprehensive piece, were all the documents that we had to prove around our safety and security status. Those were things around our emergency operations plans, which I believe we presented to you guys in our last board agenda workshop, and all the annexes that go with that. Our safety and security audit, so every 3 years we're required to go through a safety and security audit. We do this internally with our internal safety and security team. We have to present that to TEA. The School Safety and Security Committee, which I've already mentioned, they look at the agendas, they make sure that you're following all the guidelines, the policies, the procedures within that. Behavior threat assessment, so any student who poses a threat to themselves or to others are required to go through a very extensive process that's actually led by the FBI and others. We have to take them through in order to provide support. They check all of those processes that we have in place and procedures. We also, in conjunction with that, have a Safe and Supportive Schools program. And each campus is required to have a team, which has a licensed school psychologist on it, has a counselor that's on it, an administrator, a teacher, the principal is on it, and anytime that there's any safety concerns, campus and climate cultures, their responsibility is to review all of this documentation, continue to make recommendations for the campus to continue to bolster up our safety and security. They also review the behavior threat assessments that do occur on the campuses, so they reviewed all of that document. All of our facility standards, so where do we meet? We meet the minimum and standards, and where do we go above and beyond with regards to our buildings themselves? They check all of our police officers. All our police officers, are they commissioned? Do they have all the appropriate trainings that they're required to? Do we have documentations of all those trainings? Our staff go through mental health training, as well as all the documentation that goes with that. And then last but not least, how do we utilize our notification systems whenever there's an emergency event that goes? I will say that it took an entire team to put these things together. It was over 1,100 pages of documents that we had to submit to TEA for their review through a program they call Sentinel. He did say that was probably some of the most comprehensive documentation that he's ever seen with it, and it all passed with very flying colors. So he said, as far as your safety stance and position, was really good. Beyond that, they spent several weeks reviewing all those documents. They met with me and Mr. Toscano, and then that day they went out to every campus. By the way, these are retired folks that work for CIA and FBI, so they know what they're looking for when they came through, and they pointed out some things. The first thing they did point out was that every campus had a very strong stance for safety, and you can feel the climate and the culture around that. We take safety very serious, so they were very complimentary towards all of our staff and their positions with regards to this. When they did go through, they did provide in the summary, you'll see some things they said, great job, keep up these things, but they did provide some corrective actions. That's their job, is to find where you have some blind spots. So I'm going to take you briefly through those areas that we have got started already on corrective action. So the first one was they notified, and this is a part of our documentation, was the Stop the Bleed training for students 7th through 12th grade. Has to be offered. Doesn't mean that every 7th through 12th grader has to have it, but it has to be offered. They actually didn't find it. There is a document that's in there. All of our 8th graders do go through that training. They go through it in their PE or health class that they have. So we actually have met that requirement. So we're already done. Check. We're going to be able to share that with them. When they did across the entire district, they did find 3 doors that didn't function properly. So with those have already been corrected. Mr. Rokas and his team have already gone around, corrected those doors. We've already been able to prove those through work orders. So those will be submitted. We're done there as well. We also discovered that solid doors, so we have a number of solid doors across our district. Think about those that go into gyms, goes into the back door of cafeterias. We're required to have a peephole on those doors. And it has to be a 180-degree peephole. It can't be just a little peephole that you look through. So what we've done already up to this point, we've already ordered all the peepholes. About 2/3 of those peepholes have already been installed. We had to order some extra peepholes because we found a few extra doors that they didn't even identify. So we're going to go above and beyond what they're asking us to do. So every door that's solid, regardless if there's two of them right beside each other, we're going to put peepholes in both of them. Regardless if there's a human being on the other side or not, we're going to put a peephole because you never know when somebody from maintenance may be on the other side. So we're making sure that we go above and beyond. So that's almost already rectified as well. We learned something about perimeter versus secured fencing. So for the last 3 years, they've been talking about non-scalable fencing. And the way it's been defined by TEA and the Texas School Safety Center is that anything that's outside of a non-scalable fence. So imagine the front of a school that may have a fence that runs on either side of it, but you have the main entrance of the school. So the fence runs this way and it's non-scalable. Our fences around our district are considered non-scalable because many of those are 8 feet or higher. Also, they have the type of material that you can't just grab onto. You can climb over easily. And if you ever look at the top, they're actually really sharp. So if you try to go over it, you're going to cut yourself up pretty good. Anything outside of that, particularly your main entrances, any adjacent windows to those, or any other areas that are beside that, have to have bullet-resistant filming. So we went through a process. Every one of our facilities, we put all the bullet-resistant filming on all the doors and all of those adjacent entry points and windows. They came back and then later said, well, actually, you don't have secured fencing. And we said, say more about this. Well, what you really need is another fence inside the fence that goes around these areas, so you would have a second layer of fencing that could possibly keep intruders from coming in. But if you don't, those also have to have bullet-resistant filming if you don't have that smaller. So imagine that same school footprint has a non-scalable perimeter fence, but they have a playground back here in another building. You have to have a separate fence around each of those buildings in order to meet that qualification for a secured building, so we don't have to put the bullet-resistant filming. Well, once we found that out, we got with Mr. Thomas and his team. We've already got all of those ordered. In fact, many of our campuses are almost done completion with getting that up. So now every campus across our district, every window, every door, every window or area that's adjacent to those doors are all going to have those bullet-resistant film installed. In fact, I was meeting with Ms. Gomez the other day in our coaching session while we're right in the middle of it. An installer knocks on the door. I guess her secretary wasn't outside. He comes in, can I finish doing this? And he just starts putting up the bullet-resistant filming that's on there. So we feel good about it, but we're already in the process. It's already all ordered. Many of the campuses have already started to be installed. So we're happy to say we're moving in that direction. Door numbering. So it has to be in order. It has to meet the International Fire Code standards. So we didn't have any issues there, but we did miss some garage doors. We hadn't numbered garage doors on our campuses. So we have to go back now and number those garage doors. They identified for us that we had some mechanical rooms and fire riser rooms that are all outside that didn't have a door number on them as well. You know, they say fire riser room. We still have to put a number on it. And then we had some of those mechanical rooms, even though they don't have access into the building where students are at. We still have to put a number. You know, it says mechanical room. We still have to put a number on that. And we did have some of those numbers that were not on the inside of the door as well. So they have to be on the outside and the inside. So if you're inside, you know which ones you're looking at. If you're outside, it's the same one. If you're working on a situation or we have something going on, it's a safety concern that's there. The last thing I'll say about numbering is some of our newer schools, the frames are more of a bronze color. In the numbers that we ordered, even though they are reflective, are a darker nature to stand out against more of the silver. So they weren't necessarily identifiable. So John and his team have already wanted to correct that as well. We're going to be changing those colors over to white. So if you have the bronze door, we'll put the white numbers that are on there. But because we had missed some garage doors and some fire riser rooms and some HVACs, it did mess up our maps. So the next stage to that is our campus maps. So they identified 2 things about our campus maps. The first thing they identified about our campus maps is we are missing a big gigantic N with an arrow pointing up saying north. So if you look at a map like this, the campus is oriented to true north. So you would automatically assume that this way is north when you're looking at the map, but because it didn't have the N with the arrow, we failed that part of the assessment. And the other thing that we failed as a part of that is because the garage doors weren't numbered or the HVAC rooms weren't numbered. Those things weren't numbered, so we have to go back now. We're working with LPA. We're already in the process of getting all those maps corrected. Once all those maps get adjusted, we'll get them back out to all our 911 agencies, so they know where the fire riser rooms are and they know where to go, where north is when they look at the maps. Also, aside to that, is the campus has to have those maps readily available. So we have big posters that are at each campus that are drawn up, but because we missed those maps were inaccurate, so we got deemed for those maps being available. And then last but not least, in the 89th legislative session, it came into statute that all campuses have to have a breaching tool. So besides all of the other things that our police officers are required to have on campus, we have those breaching tools have already been ordered. We're just waiting for them to arrive. The moment those breaching tools arrive, and you can imagine everybody across Texas is also ordering breaching tools, so there's a slight back order. So once those come in, those will be the things we do. So those are the corrective actions that they have given us. Well, yes,
Was that, it's a mandate, was that funded? Was that in any of
that
our?
was not funded. No, it was not funded. Thankfully, we still have a few dollars left in some grant funds that we were able to use to cover the cost of that, but if we hadn't been really responsible with those grant funds, we may not have been able to cover that with them. So that helped to do that, and the bullet resistant film, we were able to cover that with the last dollars that we had. So what we have to do, obviously, is we have to present it to the school safety committee, and then we have to present it to the board. The next step will be is as these things get remediated, I have to go into a platform called Sentinel, which is TEA's way that they observe that we're maintaining all of our safety postures. It's an online platform. Once these things are done, I have to provide evidence in the platform that they're done. Once they're done, Brian Tullis, who is he's our regional rep from TEA, from the safety committee, or the safety team that works for them, he'll reach out to me. Once they're all good, he checks them off, and we've met all the requirements, and it's all done beyond that. Obviously, if we don't meet any of the timelines, which I don't anticipate, because we're almost done with many of these already, then he would then reach back out, and we'd have to figure out what's going on, and if we need to have any extensions on the timelines that have been provided. This is once every 4 years we go through this process. Like just kind of said, that we were first out of the barrel. This is the first year. They did some pilot schools last year across the state, but we were the first district in the Bear County area that got the pleasure of going through this process with TEA. And it wound up being a really good process. So I feel really good about where we're at. Obviously, opportunities to constantly improve our safety stance, but I'm really proud of the team and all the work that everybody put in.
What is a reaching tool?
Breaching tool? Chief, do you want to explain a breaching tool?
Just imagine, picture a hammer,
Okay.
right? Imagine a big hammer with a wedge in the, to lift the nails,
Okay.
a little bit bigger,
Okay.
and then the other part, the head of the hammer, a little bit bigger. So you can stick it into a door and pry it open.
Okay.
That's what we do.
And every officer has to have that too.
Every campus,
And
yes.
how do you carry it around with you?
There's a whole.
No, that's a beautiful question. So, no ma'am, they don't carry it around, but it's accessible in their office in case it's
I just
needed.
had a visual.
Luckily for our district, we don't have those kind of doors that we would need a breaching tool,
Okay.
because we're in a very good keying system with one key opens, the officers has one key that opens just about every door in the district, but we still have to have it mandated by law.
Oh, okay. Well, when I heard every officer needed to have one. I'm a girl, I don't know about those.
But just, the fire department has them, when they go, unfortunately, in car accidents. They have-
Right.
Yeah.
So is this, I'm sure the process isn't new, but is this a new mandate that we have to have
Yes,
there?
yes ma'am.
Came out. Yes.
Question, bulletproof film.
Yes.
I don't know if I've been sheltered at all. I'm familiar with bulletproof windows and stuff. I know that's not feasible. Is it specific to a specific caliber? We put it inside and out, or how is that?
That's a great
put in?
question. So it's not bulletproof, it's bullet resistant. So if I say bulletproof, I do apologize about the nomenclature. It's bullet resistant, which
Okay.
means that the goal is to create the conditions for the window can't be shattered. So the ones that we use is like tier 2 or tier 3 in some areas and tier 1 in others. If it's tier 1, we double window it. So any of the main entrances into the schools, they're double walled, which is a 6-minute time. So they literally can shoot a gun over and over and over and
Doesn't
over
matter the
again.
caliber.
It doesn't matter the caliber.
Doesn't matter.
They can shoot it for 6 minutes straight before the window will finally be shattered. So they actually have videos of Houston ISD police, Houston Police Department shooting at it for 6 minutes straight until the window finally shattered. On the adjacent windows in areas that there, we use the 3-minute, which is the tier 3, which is 1 layer. So it still provides us, and since we have an officer on every campus, it's a 1 to 3 minute response time. The goal is just to really slow them down,
Right,
but
right.
it won't prevent a bullet from going in. Now, we do have bulletproof. When you go into the entry vestibules and you look at the doorway that leads into the admin office, that's bulletproof, as well as the glass that you see the attendance clerk, that's bulletproof. And then the wall going all the way down where the sheetrock is, that's also bulletproof on the other side. And that was all factored in our most recent renovation projects with bonds, and then any of our new construction, that's all been a part of that. So those are the parts that are bulletproof. Everything else is bullet
Bullet
resistant.
resistant, okay, got
And
it.
I think somebody in Austin has to either own a bullet resistant company or have stock in bullet resistant company, because they're making a killing right now.
Sure.
Everybody across the state is going to be scrambling to get the same bullet resistant
Right.
killing.
Right.
Well, everybody good? Okay.
Thank you.
Sir?
Next item is 5.3, new high school renderings.
Yeah, trustees, we wanted to bring to you an update of the renderings for high school number 2. And so with us, we've got Mr. Thomas to kind of walk us through those renderings electronically, Ms. Gonzalez as well. But you have a hard copy of these slides as well, if you want to follow along that way.
So if you recall, last month we brought you the new transportation facility that's going to be, you'll see some dirt moving here soon. Now we wanted to bring you the high school 2. So as Mr. Piscopo said, you have the hard copies in your file. Want to start with making sure everybody knows exactly where the site is. You'll see the yellow border here, which is our entire school district. You'll see the high school there towards the south of it. Corner of Corpus Christi and Donop Road, that's where the new high school will be. The site itself is about almost 124 acres. It is, as you can see here, a little bit split by a floodplain. The right side is where we are looking at constructing the new high school. The left side of the floodplain will be a future site for a possible middle school or elementary down the way. So the high school will sit on the right side of that. This, as you can see, is a rendering of the full high school. If you recall, when we put this out to voters, we let them know that this would be possibly in 2 phases. So all of the infrastructure is there to house a campus up to 3,200 students. But the initial phase 1 will be to serve about 2,200. So you'll see here on your map, the extension, the phase 2 is there. That will not be on the initial high school, that's for phase 2. And then you'll also see that all of the parking lots are built out. Some of those parking lots will not be quite as large as that because some of those will be in phase 2 also. Okay. This is the floor plan. And you have your ledger here on the side as to which areas fall to what. But the first floor, this is the first floor all the way around. You'll see the main entry of the building there with administration. You'll see your academic buildings, your academic settings, I should say, with special education. Phase 2 is here, again, for academics. This, again, will not be here in phase 1. Visual arts, your art classrooms, your studios, library, dining hall, kitchen, performing arts, and then, of course, your athletics. Second floor, second floor is only on the front part, which is the academic areas. So that's the only part of the buildings that will be 2 stories. And all of phase 2 will also be 2 stories. Okay, so just to let y'all know, when we started this project, which was probably a little over a year ago, we sat down and wanted to remind all of you, we didn't make these decisions haphazardly. We've been meeting with groups of people and different groups all along the way. Initially with the planning, it started with meeting with students. LPA, our architects, sat down. Mrs. Gomez was happy to host us at the high school. We pulled some groups of students together, asked them what they wanted in their future high school. Got all that information, met with several groups at the high school, the academic core team, of course, and some of curriculum. What does CTE need to look like? What does the administration area need to look like? What do the science classrooms need to look like? Did that same type of conversations with our child nutrition program, same type of conversations with our MEP program. So all of the entities that will eventually be in this building, we had those conversations. And these were our 3 structures the whole way. It needs to be flexible. The building needs to be versatile. needs to be functional for not only today, but 20 years from now. And it needs to be fiscally responsible. So again, this is over almost a year and a half work as to where we are. Each time we went through a different phase of the planning with the construction design, and Mr. Thomas, you're gonna have to help me here. We have design plans and we have 25% design plans. Sit down, meet with everybody. Are we going in the right direction? What do we need to tweak? Again at 50%, again at 75%, and we're almost at 100% if I'm not mistaken,
On phase one, yes.
on phase one.
Absolutely.
So just wanting to let you know, it's been a lot of work. We're almost there. This is the color palette. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit masculine. This vibrancy doesn't do it well enough on the photos here, and we tried to have a storyboard for you, but we didn't get it in time. But these will be some of the colors, some of the materials that you will see in the building. Rendering of the entire campus. You'll see the front is of the campus, your main entrance is here. All of your athletic facilities are in the back. It's beautiful. You've got a full, your football field, a practice field, your baseball field, your softball field, your tennis courts. What am I missing?
Marching pad.
Oh, the marching pad for the band and ROTC practice. You'll see we have a drive around the entire campus. We always wish we had that here at this campus, but we did put it into the new high school.
Is that road right there, is that Old Corpus Christi or is that Donna?
Old Corpus Christi, wait, let me get,
That's
this
Old Corpus
is here.
Christi.
That's Old Corpus Christi?
Yes, sir.
Donut would come here.
Okay.
This, as you can see, leads over, it's like a bridge to the other side of it where we'll put the other campus, but it also, this will be the main entrance for buses. Off the demo.
Come to that.
And I remember the football field is like a JV because it doesn't have the stick. But how about the baseball and the softball? Is that gonna be a
So
varsity?
baseball, you could play varsity there, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got the capacities if you need them, but
And the
yes, they're full
softball?
size and they're all turf.
Softball field as well?
Yes, sir.
Right.
And so the football field, it is a regular sized football field,
Right.
it's just the stadium seating won't be for the stadium.
I guess where I was going with it is the softball field and the baseball field, making it better than what we have now and where they could.
So baseball capacity is 531 and softball's 495. So they're
Good.
full
Yeah.
competitive.
Yeah, they're similar size, but they are upgraded field surfaces being turf.
Yeah, the playing surfaces is
And a projection as far as, we're not gonna be 6A anymore, will be,
It will, well, the facilities are built as if we were going to be 6A, because by the end of phase 2, this will be a
but
6A.
initially, are we gonna have to go back and forth because of enrollment? Or are we gonna stay 6A, even with both high schools, to where we do have to have varsity come over here?
Well, the varsity for
I
the
mean, varsity's
state,
gonna come anyway.
for the stadium, yes, sir. Yeah,
Right.
yes, ma'am.
Right.
The softball, baseball won't have to, but for Friday night varsity football games, both high schools teams will have to play here.
So we'll have two 6A teams that potentially could play each other.
because that track
First and
and field,
second.
you're talking about like a total between home and visitors about 990, a little bit less than 1,000.
Will the baseball fields and
Athletic.
softball have seating?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
similar to the fields
Will we
here.
have?
So this is our only rendering that shows the entire campus. You'll see here, we have other renderings, but I just want to point out, you've got a really attractive courtyard here, a kind of encased courtyard here. This is coming in from student parking over here. They've got a nice attractive entry here. There's also strategic parking for athletic events that will go towards the back.
Like, see it there. That's C. Okay, let's see it then. Mhm.
Okay. So this is the rendering of the front of the campus. I want to stress, these might not be the exact awnings. We're still working through that, but it gives you an idea of what the front of the campus will look like and how attractive it'll be. This is one of the courtyards. Again, this is a bigger rendering of the two courtyards on the campus. Typical hallway. It looks kind of plain, It's very similar to our high school, except for I want to stress here, we really feel like we've updated the materials that we're using to be more durable, easier to clean and maintain. Each hallway will have, this is, I don't know if you can tell, but that's a whiteboard where teachers can write messages next to a tack board where they can post student work, and that's most every classroom has that. Each hallway has at least several of those for student display. Another rendering of upstairs. We had talked about, and y'all have mentioned it several times about CTE programs. We wanted to show you one of the CTE classrooms that were for entry-level cybersecurity, where we could stage it, how we could stage it to make sure that each student has their own workstation. This is the entry-level classes. And we designed this with conversations with our CTE program director at the time, Dr. Holman, as to how it might work. For project work, projects with the upper level cybersecurity, she suggested workstation type settings where they have a group table with a project screen for each one of them. So that's how it's been designed, so that they'll have the ability to do that if they choose to. This is very similar to our P-TECH program that we're doing across at CTE. It's a very popular program, and in conversations with our curriculum department and CTE, we really felt like this was a program that's going to be continuing to grow, and we will be able to really have enough students' interest to have it at both campuses. So this will be an area that is also in
That's
CTE
health science. Oh,
Yes, sir.
outstanding. I just got my son off my payroll.
Congratulations.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so cafeteria. This is going to be a cafetorium. Wanted to make sure that everybody knows this campus will have a stage. It will not have a pack, but they will be able to practice all UIL events here, performances. It is going to be a full-size stage. When they use it during the day, there is the ability to partition that, and that's a classroom behind that they could use any day, all the time, or open it up, and it's a full-size stage for performances for them to practice. If they want to come and perform their production at the PAC, it's not going to feel any different because they'll have the same size stage here to practice on and to prepare for UIL competitions. You'll notice here in the next rendering, it'll show it a little bit better, but we do have stadium seating. It's not going to look like this, it's more attractive. We're still working out the final details on that, but the lighting, the sound will be for a cafeteria. That's what it looks like when the stadium seatings are out. Band hall. In the band hall, we're doing it a little bit different than our high school here, I believe. The practice rooms for the band will be on the outside of the practice rooms, and that was in conversations with Dr. Mize as we were developing that in collaboration with choir. We don't have band every class period, but we have band or choir pretty much every class period. So those practice rooms could be utilized by the band or the choir students if we put them on the outside and they share them. This is the entrance to gym, the main gym, competition gym, the vestibule to the competition gym. Similar to what we have here at the high school in the Stan Bonowitz gym, entryway with seating. This is the gym itself. Of course, I don't think it's going to be Hornets #2, but we just wanted to kind of show you what it could look like, and this is what the seating will be. This is the auxiliary gym. And then finally, we have some renderings of what the library will look like, how they could use settings. We have really 3 different work sections in the library where they could have different types of stacks. They can move the stacks around, and they can have table settings. I think the next one shows a little bit more of individual settings with table settings. And I think this might be the last slide. Yeah. So that's a sneak peek.
Very nice.
So,
Yeah, very nice.
Quick question on, so when do we look to start, I guess, in projected?
if everything goes, and we are praying and crossing our fingers, this is slated to open the fall of '28. But we started work last year, really a high school to plan from beginning to end, 4 years.
When will we break ground? I think he's asking. When will we break ground?
Yeah, break ground and then.
Start
When will we open
there.
it?
So We're
Rough timeframe.
We're anticipating, we're probably gonna bring a GMP for the subcontractors. This is split into two GMPs. One's primarily the site work. It's got some electrical, plumbing, other trades in it. But we're hoping to bring that to you in December, but possibly early January in the work session if we don't hit that December window, and then we're hoping to turn dirt soon after that. Assuming everything goes well with our permitting, which we are still working through some of the, we've got that floodplain she mentioned on there, so we're having to rechannel that floodplain, which goes through FEMA, and so we're thinking that process has been underway. We're not anticipating that the coast or the city of San Antonio will slow us down because of that. So we're just, hopefully all goes well with permitting. We hope to turn dirt here in the next January if possible.
Yeah,
Be
so
ideal.
January, February timeframe, break ground, open the building and move in and start fall of '28.
Thank you.
So we just got through talking about fencing and bullet resistant glass.
Yes, sir.
I forgot to mention that that's another group that we've mentioned. We've met with Chief and his team with cameras, where cameras need to be, how many do we need to have, with Mr. McKay also for fencing. In fact, I think we've done that at
Yeah,
least
so
twice.
all the things that we discovered from the vulnerability assessment that we didn't include in our current facilities have been programmed in through change order to this, and any subsequent new facilities will have all of the same standards included in the design and construction.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is 5.4, policy update 126.
Trustees, I'll let Mr. McKay talk a little bit more about it, but this update is huge, as you can imagine, coming from the 89th legislative session, bringing it to you as a first reading. Your policy review subcommittee will need to mobilize. There's a lot of policies in here, so staff is ready to support the subcommittee along the way. You can distinguish between those that are governance related and those that are other forms of policy. Just kind of pointing back to our board pathways training, one of the things that they emphasized with us as we talked about this particular subcommittee and its work in policy review is to possibly focus on the governance related policies in the review. But certainly as a board and as a subcommittee review all policies, and staff will support in adding clarification and doing additional research if at any point that the subcommittee determines we need to do that for any policy. And bring those recommendations back to the full body of the board whenever the subcommittee is ready. So typically we are able to do a 30-day window, but now that we're taking a little bit closer look at them, if it takes a little longer than that, that's fine. So we'll just work together, and when the subcommittee's ready, we'll make sure we get that on that subsequent agenda. And this one just happens to be a really big one, so it might take a little extra time. Mr. McKay, you have anything to add?
No, I don't. Just to double down on how large it is. It's over 1,000 pages. The full document of policy changes based on all the legislation that was in the last session. If you're looking particularly at those that around board governance, it'll be policies that start with B. So everything that starts with B will be the ones that you can pay attention to, as well as all of the other policies that relate to administrative work have already been divvied up amongst the leadership team. You see here, it's for them with their teams to review, make sure that we're all in alignment. If we have any questions or adjustments before you guys take it to us to consider for adoption. So if you have any
Are you
questions about
guys
this,
using the TASB liaison person, or are you just doing it on your own?
No, ma'am. The TASB person is the one that presents that to us. So Lexi gets that to us with all their recommendations. So everything you'll see, when you look in your packets, you'll see the one that's the local policy comparison packet. That's the one where they strike through everything that's been changed and they put it in red, everything that's new. So if you go back and look, it'll tell you what was there, and it'll tell you what the recommended language is based on all the new statutes.
And are we gonna update all policy essential related to where all the dates are reflective of
The
that
ones,
date?
yes, ma'am. The ones that are adopted by the board in a subsequent session, those will all be changed, because TASB goes back then, and when they get adopted and amended, then that's when
Yeah,
it says
we
at the
have
very
to-
bottom.
We have to actually, once it's approved, then I have to go into TASB and I have to put that it was approved and the date was approved. And then it'll populate to show the update in board policy as well.
Okay.
Now, your legal is gonna already,
Right.
legal is legal and it's gonna show the date that it
When they
came
updated
out.
it,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
All right. Anybody have anything else? We're going to move on to work session, 6.1, discussion of QSA quality seats analysis.
So Ms. Camry is passing out the slide deck for the quality seats analysis. This is something you've seen before last year as part of our work with the Texas Education Agency and our membership in the system of great schools. This is the analysis, the comprehensive analysis that we conduct to then inform our improvement plans. And in our pathways training that we had with Civic Solutions, if you recall, the 8-hour day we spent together, they indicated that the board could expect a presentation of this past summer's quality seat analysis in the November timeframe. So we're ready to bring that, actually said December, but we're ready to bring that now. So Ms. Barnes and the team are ready to walk us through what we've discovered in this year's QSA.
We'll get Sam.
Oh, yeah. And we can follow, I mean, if you want to
Yeah.
walk us through the paper copy, what Sam troubleshoots.
I don't know how to read it. It's beyond my technical skills. I also downloaded it as a PowerPoint, so it's not showing up on the TV. It's showing up there. I unplugged it because of that here.
Sam said, why'd you touch it?
No, respect the packet. Don't have the packet.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. T already gave like an intro into this. So just to set a little bit of a background, we're obviously, we partner with Systems of Great Schools, and because of that, there basically is a framework and process that's in place to ensure that we're providing high-quality schools for our students. And so because of that partnership, and as being part of it, that's when we came up with, y'all came up with rigorous goals, North Star goal, and it's reflected on the strategy of the page. So y'all have seen this over and over again. You've seen all of the strategies, but everything that we do is rooted in trying to make sure that we hit these outcomes. So that's why you have the strategy on the page. So what the team is gonna go over is we're gonna dig into the quality seat analysis, which is data that we've already reviewed. And so based off of that, we were able to come up with strategies that we put in place to support campuses. We've already been working on that. This isn't anything new. We've been working the plan since the summer. It's just time to formally present it. And so we'll get the opportunity to talk about that. But what you're really listening for is what bubbles up in the data. And what the data is going to tell us is what the needs are and what the strengths are of the district. And based off that, that's how we came up with the plan. So we're going to kick off with the QSA.
We're going to go to that first pie chart there on my slide. And I just want to remind everybody, just like Ms. Barnes and Mr. Pisano said, that this is data that we looked at from like the summer. And so some of the data we've been talking about in the board meetings is like newer data, updated versions of it. And so this is, we're looking back. I got it. Looking back to see where we were at the end of last year, like over the summer. So this is our status, this is our scorecard, right? So our goal was to get It's around students sitting in seats at A or B campuses. And so at the end of last year, we ended with 30% of our students today sitting at A or B campuses. And so it kind of shows the breakdown there of 18% at A campuses and 11.4% at B campuses. Just for context, a year ago we were sitting at 7%, and that's kind of the breakdown of where things were. If you dig into the accountability, so this gets a little numbery, so forgive me on this one. So the first column is showing the overall rating by campus. The second column shows their overall rating last year, so 2 years of overall rating. The third column is going to break it out, so the third, fourth, fifth column, each of those domains from last school year. So domain 1 is really around student achievement. So it's like, what level are we performing at? Domain 2 is really around growth and how much progress you're making. And so what I want you to see between domain 1 and 2 is that domain 2 is higher for almost every one of our campuses. So we're in a high growth zone right now. Now, as we continue to grow, we're going to see those domain 1 scores come up. But right now, even our highest campuses are not at the same level in domain 1 that we are at domain 2. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay, so then domain 3 is like subpopulations, how did groups do? So it looks at race and ethnicity, it looks at TELPAS for language proficiency, things like that. And so you can see how we scored on those as well. Jen's going to walk us through some of our local assessment data.
And just a reminder, this is last year's data, so in 2 weeks we'll be bringing you lots of updated data from 25, 26. This is local data, this is our map, think of it as a screening tool, how well are students doing in math overall, generally speaking. So we can see that we've got a hotspot in 7th grade. This particular data point in 7th grade shows a slight decrease even from the beginning of the year. I believe at the beginning of the year we had 59% approaches, and by the end of the year 51%. So 7th grade tends to be a hot spot that we are continuously trying to chip away at. We see that 3rd and 4th grade both increased, 3rd grade by 11%, 4th grade by 5% from beginning of the year to end of year, so that's a celebration point. And then 6 through 9, overall, we just kind of continue to struggle. That's that middle school where they are getting double the content with about half as much time as they were getting the year before in 5th grade for math has really kind of taken a toll. We put some things in place for this year, and we'll be able to see some of the benefits of that. Those structures already coming up in a couple weeks. So that's math. In class K through 2, very similar. This is foundational skills and literacy. So basically those phonics skills, understanding letter sound correspondence, things like that. How well prepared are our students at early literacy? K through 2 across the board increased, slightly lower than what we saw in 3rd through 5th grade, but all double-digit increase from beginning of the year to end of the year, with kinder being a highlight at growing 23 percentage points of the year. And then we see the same math testing for reading. The other slide was for math. Again, we know that literacy is always a little bit stronger than math. That's just kind of historically and across the state is looking the same way. In K through 5 across the board, all of our literacy scores increased from beginning of the year to the end of the year. So that was a celebration. Secondary had some decreases, and we've had some curriculum changes that we're putting into place this year. So I'm very excited to see the results for that. And then 7th through 10th grade continues to be our highest when it comes to actual achievement scores. Next couple slides talk about just enrollment changes, which you are well aware of. So from 2017 to 2025, we were on a steady rise, particularly the last 3 years. And that 2025 number has already changed because I looked at it today and we're already more than 321 students above. So I'm continuing to grow. And then you see just kind of long-term projection where we're going by 2030. We're climbing quickly to that 20,000 student mark. So looking at just what's happening with schools with those projections, we opened Valor this year, co-located at Tradition Elementary School with about 87 students. Next year, we open phase 2 of Valor, so they will be full out 6 through 8 campus. Victory opens as a STEM academy in 2026, elementary number 10 in 27, and then that golden year of 2028, elementary 11 and high school number 2 that you saw.
Moving over to some discipline data. This tries to capture the number of incidents divided by the number of students. So if you have a 1, that means for every student you have 1 discipline incident. Now, keep in mind that we pivoted from using that bigger number from last year where we're looking at the serious incidents. I think you guys had said, hey, can we not look at the smaller incidents, but we want to look at the bigger ones this year in award data, but this is looking at all of the incidents. And so the peak for the discipline incidents over the last 2 years was our middle school. So you'll see the blue was 2 years ago in 24, and the red was last year. And you can see those numbers starting to come down. Our third highest rate when you take incidents divided by students is actually honor. And you'll see that in red there from 25. And then our East Central High School is the next one. But what I want you to see is a general trend down. You can see campuses like Pecan Valley and Tradition made huge movement last year on their discipline numbers. And across the board, just looked at, I believe every campus came down from where they were at the prior year, from blue to red. And then look at some of our exceptional campuses like Salado. We often talk about the discipline data at Salado. Look at how small that blue one was, and look at how it got even smaller with that red data. They're doing a great job over there. Whenever I talk about discipline data, I love to put it in the context of behavior, because behavior is like your preventative, your systems, what teaching we're doing, and then discipline is after they got in trouble. And so this is the same data that I present each month to you guys. And so we talk about, we're aiming for, at the end of this school year, that 80 that's considered fidelity. So a really strong system is 80. And so this is the last 2 years. And again, what I want you to see is that 7 of our 12 campuses increased last year. And I want you to see that march up. Our exceptional system was Oakcrest, so Maggie Lozano, who's now our new principal over at Victory, was leading that behavior system at Oakcrest. And then Sarah Harrod over at Highland Forest were our 2 that were above 80 last year. And then you can see Harmony was just a pinch under 80, and you can see some other of those elementary campuses getting close to 80. But I want you to think about this slide when I come back in 2 weeks for the board. And I want you to think about how, I believe last month when I presented, we said that 7 of the 8 elementary campuses were already over 80. And so we're making tons of progress on our behavior systems, and that's part of where we think we're making progress on our discipline. So as we get really strong and clear in the classroom, it makes a big impact. And then I want you to see things like Oakcrest that had their really strong, Oakcrest and Salado had strong discipline results, and they had strong behavior systems. There's a strong relationship between these 2 sets of data year in, year out over the last 10 years that we've worked with this metric and this system. Looking at talent, we have a system where we try to quantify like what would great teaching look like. And so we looked at 2 things. We looked at, 1, the percent of students that met expected growth. So how much was the teacher growing students? And then we looked at their rating. So when we go into the classroom and we observe the teaching, and we're looking at, were you exceptional at both of these 2 systems? And so this is capturing that campus by campus. So Highland Forest in 23-24, 63% of their teachers that we had that metric for, 63% of them met it. And in 24-25, 83% of them met that metric. And what I want you to see here is the increase from the blue to the red. So you can see an upward trend. So we believe we have more outstanding teachers last school year than the year before. On the far right, I can quantify that. I can say we had 42% in 23-24, and we went up to 49% last year. And I believe 7 campuses went up and 3 decreased last year. I also want to call your attention to, I like this one because it matches pretty well with the data we've seen. Think about where were our highest campuses. We had 3 A campuses last year, Highland Forest, Oakcrest, and Salado. That's where our most outstanding teachers are. That's where the red is the highest. And then the next couple campuses are our B campuses. So Tradition and Sinclair were our 2 B campuses. And then our campuses over further to the right were ones where we had lower accountability ratings overall. And so we believe this is a little different way maybe to look at the data than we've done it in the past, but it's one way to just kind of try to represent where we think that outstanding teaching is happening.
Question.
Yes, sir.
On that metric at a high level.
Yes, sir.
Can you just tell me what that might include? I mean, it looks
Yes,
like
sir.
the gauge would be 55% of students'
Yes, sir.
growth based on what else is included with that metric?
So think of two dimensions. One dimension is the 55% growth, which that comes from TEA's metric. So the TIA metric, they consider you eligible for teacher incentive allotment at a rate of 55%. So TEA define that at a high level. So you have to have that, and you have to have your T-test rating, your evaluation on domains 2 and 3, which are the teaching and learning environment. They have to be at, I believe it's a proficient level or higher on all of those. So there's, I believe, 8 or 9 domains within that they get individually rated on. In the training, they call it rock solid to get to rating, to get to that rating. So I have to have both of those two metrics.
But a proficient rating being what, 70%, 75%, 80%?
It's not exactly a percent.
Okay.
How can I describe that? It's a rubric, right?
Okay, so just a
They,
mix
they
of.
call it, in all their training, they call it rock solid. Like, it's not considered like average. It's like you have to be really solid in all of the metrics for all of the domains within.
Okay.
Great questions. Thank you. Okay. Community engagement, we give, for the last few years, we've done a panorama survey. Let me just kind of walk you through some highlights. So there's 3 big areas that they look at, growth mindset, self-efficacy, and emotional regulation. I like to read it from this middle one here, where it compares us to other groups nationally. So what this is telling me is that for growth mindset for our 3rd through 5th grade students, we're in the 60 to 79th percentile. That means we compare favorably to other campuses of 3rd and 5th graders nationally. So we're higher than most. 50 would be like you're in the middle, right? And so we have a high growth mindset, but it was down 2% from the prior year. That's what this 2 means, the little down arrow, 2%. Self-efficacy, we were in the 20 to 39, so that tells me we were a little bit below average. So our 3rd through 5th graders' sense of self-efficacy through this survey was a little bit below average, and it stayed the same. And then our emotional regulation, again, is in the 20 to 39, so that's a little bit below average. It went down about 3%. So our 3rd to 5th graders dropped a little bit in that category. And then we compared that to secondary, looking at, I believe that's the same 3 areas. But what I want you to see here are 2 things. One, what I want you to see is compared nationally, our 6th through 12th grade students do not compare as favorably. So the growth mindset is very high for our 3rd through 5th graders, but it's in the 0 to 19th percentile. So that's a lower group. So we don't compare very favorably at growth mindset with our 6th through 12th grade. And then our emotional regulations in the a little bit below average in the 20 to 39th percentile, and then self-efficacy is in the 0 to 19th percentile. But all 3 of those did go up compared to the prior year. So we went up 2 on growth mindset, and 1 on emotional regulation, and 6 on self-efficacy. And so big takeaway is that we're a little stronger at elementary, and that secondary is lagging, but we are gaining more at secondary than we are at elementary.
When are these sent out, and how are they sent out?
It's a computer thing that they do in school, and so, I'm sorry, they do it 3 times a year. So we do it beginning, middle, and end of the year, so we track the results over time. Love the questions, thank you. So tiering, so we talked last year during this process how we tiered the campuses, so we're trying to put them into groups based on their performance. And a lot of times when we talk about tiering, we talk about tier 1 being like the on-track group. I want you to think about it the opposite. This tiering is more like our grading system. So like a 4 is like you're right on track. A 5 would be like amazing. A 3 is like a little below. So the lower the number on this system, the more at risk you are. The more you're so the higher the number, the more the higher the level of performance overall. Okay, so we have 4 big categories, and we tried to match them up to our community-based accountability system. So we looked at teaching and learning, student safety, well-being, student engagement, and quality commitment and staff. And how did we measure those? So teaching and learning is further divided into their overall state accountability rating. So that number we saw earlier, and that's 35% of the overall rating. Their MAP growth, so Jen was showing that earlier, so how much on a national norm test that's compared to people all over the country, how did growth look? That's 15% in reading and 15% in math. So major discipline incidents per student is 10% of the rating. Your attendance rate is 10%. And then that one that we looked at that you were asking about, Sarah, where we looked at the T-test and their growth, similar to the TIA rating. That quality staff component that we looked at was 15% of the rating. And this was our list of tiering. So we came up with one campus we put at tier 1. Then you can see a group of them there at tier 2. We had a half step between 2 and 3 for Harmony at 2.5. We had a couple of them at tier 3. And then we have our tier 4 campuses. We wanted to represent some of the other key data to go along with it. So I wanted you to see their letter grade and state accountability. And what I want you to see is that your A and B campuses are very high on the list, and then our lower campuses are our C and D rated campuses. Looking at CAST, it's red just as a highlight, just to say, hey, we have tiered them at the 3rd level. I put a D/C because the state is calling it a D rating, but we did appeal that rating. And I'm hoping in the next month, sometime early December, I hope to hear the results of that appeal. We're very optimistic that they're going to allow us to change that one data set. So we know performance-wise, they were lined up to a C campus, even though their current rating says a D campus. The next column over shows how many years on the accountability. If you're a 2, that means that there's 2 years you've had an F-rated campus without getting to a C-rated campus. And then they have a funny metric where every time you get a D, it's like 3 Ds equals an F. So if 3 Ds equal an F, then Cass Lee has had 2 F ratings and a D rating, so we call them 2.3. And Heritage has had 2 D ratings but no F ratings, and so they're at a 0.7. Pecan Valley's had 2 F ratings and 1 D rating, and so just trying to capture their overall status there. And so the tiering then takes us over to Joette's going to do a slide to talk about how we use this information to try to focus our support for campuses.
So each of the tiers basically determines the support that we provide the campuses. And the supports vary, right? Thinking about the process in general, we understand the quality seat analysis and the data. We understand district-wide what we're going to do, but then also what are the specific supports that we need to put in place for each campus. And so when we do that, we'll look at the tier and we'll determine, okay, is this person going to be assigned a coach for up to 15 hours per week? This campus, they might get support with an increase in instructional specialists going to the campus to model for teachers, to coach teachers, to work with admin, to work with their academic facilitators. Accountability support meetings, that's whenever we'll meet with certain campuses to look at data, talk about next steps, what are supports that we can do as CIA, how can we support and partner with you? And with that, the frequency might be, if you're a tier 1 campus, we're probably meeting with you every 3 to 4 weeks based off of the most current data. Thinking about CG, which that's our CG plan, that drives the work, right? And so with that, what supports can we put in place to be a thinking partner to help make sure that you're hitting those goals? Targeted tutoring. So sometimes we have campuses that will reach out to retired teachers that are highly effective that will come in and work with specific groups of kids. And so we will offer that to certain campuses as we know people to make sure that we allow them to hit the mark according to the data. And then also one of the things is looking at the grants. So right now we're currently researching the LASSO 4 grant to see what are some possibilities that are there that we can use that's going to help any of these campuses based on their need. So leveraging those grants to make sure that we hit those student outcomes. So, and then also the hiring and staffing supports, that's something new to where we know if you need help or assistance with hiring, because we know it's about the high quality teaching that helps get the results. How can we partner with you to ensure that we're getting the best of the best? So these are just some examples of how we support campuses, but the biggest thing is these supports were already put in place in August. We met with every campus. We talked to them about their tier, what those supports would be. And so we met with them and we asked them what their needs were as well. And then based off that, we just kind of keep it all documented, we all communicate and just work together. And so as data comes in, we're like, okay, we need to come back together and see, is this working or what can we shift? But those accountability meetings, support meetings help us to constantly stay in touch with what's going on with the campuses. The last thing is just in thinking about the strategy on the page. The strategy on the page is basically the strategic actions that we're going to take to help us to hit our North Star goal, right? And it's also to help campuses increase and hit their marks. So when you think about the strategy on the page, we've been over that with each of you, but I think the biggest thing to know is that we've kind of listed out some of those key components on our action plan at central office, and it's being managed. So for example, classroom management routines and procedures. We talked about that that's one of the strategies, right? And so with that, we make sure that we name, for example, Jonathan Holberg kind of oversees it, but Sarah Pena coordinates the work. And so we work together to say, what will the rollout be? How are we going to support campuses to make sure that we're getting this really tight? Because we know at the end of the day, that's going to help with the behavior as well. And so we work on each of these plans. Everyone's managing something because we know that if we're real tight on that, it's going to help us to hit our goals. And so this is something that is constantly going on. We take it to our CIA leadership team. We take it to admin council and we get feedback because if something's not working, the power is in the collaboration and the ideas to see what we might need to shift. It's not just about this is the plan and stick to it. If it's not working, we shift the plan. And so there's power in the team in working on that.
Nice.
And that's it.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Item 6.2, discussion of 25-26 TAP turnaround plan for Cass Lead at Pecan Valley Elementary.
Yep, so the next two items, Jonathan's gonna stay up there and present to the board some compliance-oriented requirements. He'll kind of give you a little background on what the TAP is all about and why. We have to submit a TAP, which stands for Turnaround Plan. In the next item, he'll do something similar with a TIP, which is a Targeted Improvement Plan. It'll be brief, and I think once he's done, you'll have a good understanding of why I use the term compliance as I did.
Yes, sir, thank you. We're going to combine this into one little section. So a targeted improvement plan, a TIP. The reason why these were required for us this year is because we applied for that last reason. So because we applied for the grant to help the campuses, they want to monitor that a little bit more closely. And just for reference, I wanted to show the ratings for our campuses here. So Salado was a 91 overall A, Sinclair was an 86 overall B, and Tradition was an 85 overall B, and all three of those campuses were probably in the top 200 or so highest growing campuses in the state of Texas, showing phenomenal progress. And so we're going to comply with their requirements. A turnaround plan, so a TAP, these are required for campuses that on that chart I showed you a moment ago had missed accountability 2 times with an F rating without getting a C rating, not getting a 70 or higher. So if you've got 2 years without getting it, then you've got 2 on that little chart. And so we have 2 campuses falling into that category. So CAST was a 58 F in 24. They went to a 69 D last year, pending. So the asterisk is because it's pending. I'm hoping in the December board meeting to be able to share with you great news that they have seen the error of their ways and they've amended the rating for CAST. And then Pecan Valley was 56 overall F, and then last year they also were at a 69D. So one more point for either one of these campuses is all we need, and that gets them to a C and wipes out the counter for them. And so,
Find the point, Jonathan.
yes, that's we're on. Hey,
They're gonna get many more than that this year.
we're pretty excited about Pecan Valley right now and some of the changes they made in the teaching and getting over there. And so I can't wait to share more data with you in a couple weeks and beyond.
Don't let the cats out of the bag.
Oh,
Withhold your anticipation and excitement.
I didn't hear anything.
Poker face, Jonathan, poker face.
Can I also just say that they put in some really strong teachers. I know we had, I don't know if it's inappropriate to name some great things, but Miss Skillings came over there as a high-performing teacher in 4th grade that we have a ton of faith in. And we got into the classroom the other day and was like, oh yeah. And then I was super surprised to go into a first-year teacher's classroom. Miss Craig Horn, 5th grade over there. She is going to be an absolute star. Just blew us away. If you get a chance to get over to PV, go check out Miss Skillings and Miss Craig Horn. And I was like, what do you mean she's a first-year teacher? She's rocking. She came from Trinity. She's a
Oh, wow.
and so she's quality.
Where'd you graduate from?
Yeah, I'm a little biased in favor of Trinity.
Yeah, just wanted to. Full disclosure.
Okay, so both the tips and the taps, some of the things that we're doing that are part of the gift from the state, they did public meetings at the campus. So they put it out, invited people in, they have a meeting at the campus and they share, hey, here's what we're doing in order to work on this. And so I believe all 5 campuses have now completed that. They will have it, if they haven't, they'll have it completed before the board meeting. The core of the plan is aligned to what TEA calls the Effective Schools Framework, the ESF framework. So that's their system saying these are the practices that highly effective schools do. And all of that is incorporated by design, we call it the CP process. So we start the needs assessment in the spring, work on it over the summer, and start the school year off with a plan. And so every year I go to TEA because they change the rules every year with tips and taps, and it's always a little different. And every year I say to them, hey, we aren't waiting for you to tell us. Every campus goes through this process, and they say, yes, that's an exemplar, keep doing that. And so everything in our plan was actually already approved in your campus improvement plan. So by design in the CG process, we've already seen this. So we always look at it, look at the new requirements, line it up, and say, hey, is everything matching up? Are we okay? And then we make sure everything is on track before we're through the process. Okay, so in a campus improvement plan, it's in what they call goal 3 always. So if you look at a campus improvement plan, it'll be goal 3 because that's where the academic goals are. And then the language, you may recall when I think I did it in one of these sessions, the first one of these sessions, I talked about in the campus improvement plans, 2 things you're going to see really common in ours. People are going to talk about things like implementation of high quality instructional materials. We love acronyms. That's our favorite acronym from the state, HQIM. And so the state is like, hey, if you're doing one of these plans, we want to see you using great materials in the school. So we've got plans around how we're ensuring that what we're doing is great materials to ensure that we're doing really aligned to the standards, using the best resources available. And the second thing you'll see in a lot of our plans is implementation of planning. So sometimes they'll use this term smarter. That's the process we use to do like quarterly planning and weekly planning and then look at the data afterwards. So if you see that acronym smarter, it's really trying to talk about how do we get really deliberate. We look at the standards, plan around it. They do weekly planning sessions. They do lesson rehearsal. They get super clear about what they're learning, make sure that we're absolutely ready to go. And then the last part of smarter is looking at the data around it. So those components are highly aligned to the Effective Schools Framework. And so you'll see what that looks like. I lifted out just like an excerpt from one of the plans just to kind of show you. So within the 3rd goal, Strategy 1 from Pecan Valley talked about the smarter process. So they're talking about being data-driven, using the TEKs, doing their planning. You can see a little bit about some of the work that they're doing there, and that they're doing that with all the pre-K through 5th grade. And then I just grabbed an excerpt showing some of the action steps that they were doing that you would see in their plan. And that was, again, a snapshot from what we had planned even in the summer and that you've previously seen in our campus improvement plans. Is there anything I can clarify or explain or give any around these tips? Yes.
If I may.
Yes.
2 examples of what a high-quality instructional material might be, and why haven't we put those in already?
Yeah, so in elementary school, we have, let me think for the exact, so Amplify, so we're using, so what was that, 2 years ago we adopted Amplify, Jen, is that?
This is our third year.
So our 3rd year implementing it. So that's one of the ones where the state said, so they've increasingly been publishing lists saying, we think these are great materials. And so then they incentivize you to use that and use it within the system. So then what we do is we've got like a service provider where we actually, Great Minds is a company that we work with. So all of our elementary schools have a coach that comes in and looks at, hey, how are you using these things and how are you planning? So how does that smarter process look like? And trying to optimize our use of it. And so we felt like we've always had good resources. We felt like we're leveling up and using these. And then knowing that it's aligned to things that the state and other people are using and having success around. But it's also they incentivize like through the grants and things that if you like funding streams might be open or and so then they just want to make sure that you're using those resources. Jen or Joe, do you guys want to add anything to what I'm saying about?
I would just say, yeah, we have Bluebonnet for math and then Amplify for reading. We've extended that from elementary into middle school. And yeah.
Carnegie for algebra also?
Carnegie, Bluebonnet for algebra, Carnegie for geometry, algebra 2, and then accelerated math 6 and 7. Because Bluebonnet, the state created curriculum, did not do an accelerated version of that. They're on their way to do that. We'll be making those adjustments as they come our way.
Got it.
Yeah, so let me see if I said it right. So we've been doing Carnegie for years. We're continuing to do Carnegie 6-7. The state took Carnegie and made some small changes to it and called it Bluebonnet and said that's a high quality instructional material.
Yes.
Is that, did I capture
That's
that?
exactly
It's
right.
all that little nuance, it's all these little,
Sure.
and so luckily we have Jen and people like that who help us guide us through that, and then that way we can make it feel like it's not so heavy for our teachers to implement all this stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.3, discussion of TIP targeted improvement plans, Salado, Sinclair, and Tradition.
Yeah, he did that
No, sorry,
together.
together, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
6.4, discussion of new courses for high school for 2026 and 2027.
Yeah, so there was a new statutory requirement that students now have to take physical education in junior high in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Previously, they only needed it in 6th and 7th. And so as a result of that new requirement, we have to bring to the board an 8th grade PE course for your approval, and that's what this is. So now students have to have physical education in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade.
That's per state.
That's per the state, yes, sir.
So are we, what communication are we going to get out to parents, if you will? Because I can hear the first thing, why do they have to do it? Why are you making them do it?
Yeah, so it'll be for the 26, 27 school year, so we'll need to we'll notify parents in the course selection process in February, I guess, is when we first start doing that this year for next year.
Anybody else? Item 6.5, discussion of approval for purchase of maintenance vehicles.
Yeah, this is for a couple of maintenance vehicles that are part of our vehicle replacement cycle in maintenance. So we've secured 3 quotes for 2 vehicles. Those vehicles that we put out there for quotes are a 2026 single cab F-250 with a service body and lift. The cost of that is $60,331.50. And a 2026 extended cab F-250 with a service body, hose reels, and ladder rack, $65,285.50. One of those is for our pest control specialist, and the other is for HVAC foreman. And again, those are to replace aged vehicles as part of our vehicle replacement program. And those have been budgeted for, so the recommendation will be to purchase those vehicles at those prices from that particular vendor after reviewing the quotes.
Quick question on the longevity of the vehicles. Is it a mileage in year or maintenance cost? How do we determine?
Talk a little bit more about
They've been in our system now for at least 6 years.
I'm sorry?
6 years.
6 years.
A replacement schedule.
So do we have, I guess my question is, do we have is it mileage or is it years or is it cost of maintenance? How do we determine that this vehicle is
It's
in the
typically
mileage?
years in the fleet.
So
One of them, when we replace one is about to, it won't even, we won't even be able to use it as a spare. The second, when we replace it, will be used as a backup for another year.
So John's not here, but to probably fully answer the question, it's about 6 years in the event that they reach certain mileage and maintenance cost. The one in particular is going to have to be auctioned off. It's not even repairable to keep in service. And the other one is with some routine maintenance can be used as a backup, but it's at the end of life, basically, but usable.
Yeah, sometimes it's.
Yeah, so so we look at it at about 6 years. Sometimes in lean financial years, we may push them a little further. Prior to the implementation of this program, we had vehicles that would be, upwards of a dozen years in our fleet and cost us a lot more to maintain and operate, but that's generally what our cycle has been operating at in recent years, is about 6 years.
Yeah, and I asked you because and I moved from maintenance to construction, but a multi-billion-dollar company that I work for, we still had a 2011, actually we had 6 of those, and we were still making it work, but it was starting to cost more, obviously. But good deal.
All right, item 6.6, discussion of certification of 2025 tax rolls.
Trustees, so you'll have a one-page document folder, and it's a summary of the certified tax rolls as of October 1st. Nothing unique here. The role of the board is to take the county's tax assessor's tax roll that has been certified by the county and approve that. However, one thing that you'll need to see there, and this will be the tax roll that you'll approve, but you'll see at the very bottom left, the total tax rate of 98 cents. And if you recall, when the board adopted the tax rate, it included the 5 cent baiter, which by statute had to be the case. Now that did not pass, we'll receive an amendment later, but this tax roll will be the tax roll that you'll approve at our next regular meeting. And then down the road, when we receive the amendment, we'll bring it back. And it'll be amended back, tax rate will be amended back to 93 cents.
Questions? Okay, next item 6.7, discussion of waiver of penalty and interest on tax account.
This is something you've seen the last 2 or 3 months in a row, and that is when the county sends us a case where they have determined that they made a mistake. And so that means that they collected too much revenue. And so they notify us to reimburse, the county to reimburse the citizen the amount that was overcharged. In this particular case, it's $530.64, and then there was interest on that of $60.30. And so Basically, the only thing that's required when they make a mistake is they notify us, we notify the board has to approve it, and then we reverse engineer the taxes that were inadvertently collected as a result of Bear County's error. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, item 6.8, discussion and consideration of casting the East Central District allotted votes in the election for Bear County Appraisal Board of Directors.
Yeah, so in your electronic packet, you'll see that. You'll see East Central ISD listed there, and that we have 89 total votes to cast. And then the ballot follows that, and you'll see the candidates there on the ballot sheet, and the board has to determine where you want to distribute your 89 votes. And so you guys will need to make a determination about that and take official action at the regular meeting. The ballot includes Dr. Ralph Barksdale from Bear County, Juliana Dusek, nominated from the city of Olmos, Ivales Meza Gonzalez, nominated by the city of San Antonio, Gerald Lopez, nominated by Alamo College District and Northside ISD, Lee Martinez, nominated by Harlandale ISD, Rolando Ramirez, nominated by Southside ISD, and Becky Ruiz, nominated by Harlandale ISD and Northside ISD. So again, in your electronic agenda, you'll have the ballot there, and again, between now and the next meeting, you will need to determine as a body how you want to distribute those 89 votes to these candidates, as you've done in the past.
All right, if that's the last item on the work session, the next item would be adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a motion from Mr. Costa? Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Santos. Meeting's adjourned.